and you're very welcome to this special episode of the Farming Week, live from the Agriland tent here at the National Ploughing Championships in Ratheniska in County Laois. We have come to the end of the Ploughing Championships for this year. I can't believe it. We're about 3 o'clock on day 3, and I'm delighted to be joined in the Agriland tent by Hugh Harney, Agriland's Technical Dairy Specialist, Breffney O'Brien, Agriland's Technical Beef Specialist, and Louise Hickey, Agriland Journalist. Guys, you're all very welcome. I think 12 months ago we had wellies, we had wet gear, we had mud. 12 months later, we've ice cream, sunscreen, and our editor warning us all to mind ourselves out there in the sunshine and to behave ourselves when it comes to skincare. It is just, Breffney, compared to last year, pushing cars out of car parks, and even Anna Marie McHugh was saying it to me as well about how all of the staff were kind of wondering this year, you know, they were running ragged last year, like with holes of water and trying to make sure that the site was okay. And this year, everything was smooth sailing.
Yeah, that's right, Aisling. And of course, we all remember last year and the challenges that the wet ground conditions presented. But that said, too, a lot of people still came down last year and got the wellies on and the wet gear and made the best of it. This year was a totally different story. I arrived down here first on the Monday evening myself when we were setting up the tent. And it was actually shorts we were looking for, not wellies. And of course, the ice cream van's done a serious trade as well this year with the sunshine that prevailed throughout the 3 days. So I suppose the weather was definitely one of the main talking points, of course, across the 3 days.
Yeah, we're waiting for today's attendance, Louise, but it has been busy here, especially in the middle of the site where the Agriland tent is. But you have been out and about and enjoying the sunshine as well. And do you feel, it's been a tricky year for farmers. We've had a difficult back end in 2023, but it's always the sunshine helps boost everybody's mood, if only for a day or 2 or 3 in this case.
Absolutely, Aisling. And it feels like, you know, the sunshine has really boosted people's moods. You know, even going around with the cameras, most years people would be shying away, but it just seems that everybody wants to get involved this time. Out and about talking to people, they're all very happy to come over and chat with Agriland and popping into the tent, as we would have seen over the 3 days. General mood from people, they're mostly happy, and what we're hearing from farmers, I suppose, is that they're, you know, happy to be at the ploughing, but obviously there's lots of politicians around, and it was great for them to get a chance to speak with politicians as well over the 3 days. Yeah,
we'll definitely be coming back to the politicians, because I'm not sure about this general election in 2025. I think it could well be on this side of Christmas, judging by the political interactions here in Ratheniska. Hugh, did you enjoy the sunshine over the last 3 days? You were out and about as well on site and talking to farmers and people here visiting the site.
Yeah, of course, Aisling. And look, I know Louise and Breffney kind of touched on it, but I think everyone was in just real good spirits, kind of walking around. And I think kind of coming into it as well, look, the weather's kind of been good the last while, so weather's good, kind of, you know, for farmers, grass is growing, milk production, you know, it's kind of, it's at a place where people kind of wanted to be now, we never got peak, so farmers are happy. And I know Breffney was talking about lads eating ice creams, but I came across a young lad and his face was covered in a blue slush puppy, and having the crack, and that's just what it was all about. And I just think you know, going around the stands, everyone's in good spirits, and it's good to see, because it has been a tough year, and it has been kind of slow to get going. But hopefully now we can see out the year properly and keep that going.
Yeah,
just to come in on that as well, Hugh. Of course, it has been a tough year overall, but thankfully now this week we've been blessed with the good weather, and hopefully now if we got another couple of weeks of reasonably dry conditions, you know, it would be definitely a great help to shorten the winter, because if we remember this time last year, of course the ploughing side was fairly mucky and ground across the country was particularly wet. So look, I suppose tough and all as a year it's been, at least, I suppose, ground is in definitely drier condition.
Yeah, 100%. That and like that, I did an article at the start of the week saying, maybe you shouldn't go to the ploughing. Maybe you should go just 1 day instead of 2 days. Because I was saying to lads, well, if you've fertiliser spread, you know, this is the week to go out and start cutting and get in your silage and kind of bridge that gap with because we've been talking about fodder deficits all year, and it's good because that wasn't really the topic of conversation over the last couple of days. Yeah. And it's just maybe lads are getting in their silage and maybe things are just looking up in general. And we keep that going.
Which is great to see the work getting done. I know a couple of farmers who came in here, they might have been visiting Ratheniska for the day, but I got a picture from a farmer the next day who I'd been chatting to, and he was out spreading lime. So the work continues all the time, that's for sure. Louise, you were out and about, you were meeting tons of people. I saw you doing CPR at one point on a dummy. And you got involved as well.
It's tough work.
It is, I'm telling you. Yeah, it's not all glamour in Agriland, that's for sure. But tell us about some of your highlights from the last 3 days.
Oh yeah, well there was definitely plenty of highlights. Going to do the CPR, it was interesting to be able to learn, and obviously they had it open there for everybody to get involved, so it was nice to see crowds of people coming in. My favourite was probably just going around chatting to everybody, doing some vox pops here and there. I also went to the brown bread baking competition yesterday.
Did you get any tips?
I got a few tips, all right, yeah. So a lot of them don't really use measurements, so I don't know how good that would be to me, because I wouldn't be good at just throwing stuff together now.
Well, we're all going to be expecting great things of you now when you go back to the Agriland office.
Yeah, there'll be bread on display all next week. But so the semi-finals were kicking off yesterday, and we should get a winner announced soon now in the next hour. But yeah, so it was nice to go to all the different events. We also had welly throwing at one point. I wasn't too good at that either. I don't think I'd be winning any prizes there, but overall a great.
And you were line dancing too.
I was line dancing, yes. So I went up to the bandstand there. There was crowds of people, and I was hoping for a bit of jiving because I wouldn't be too bad at that. But there was some line dancing there. He was with me.
Yeah, I went down for my sins, and I was hopping in a bit of crack, but sure.
A little birdie told me the rhythm mightn't be the best shoe. I don't know.
No, definitely not. But I kind of left it to Louise. Louise got a lesson, and I think she flew after that. So
I did get a lesson, but it was very strict. Now there was no room for mistakes. There was some people coming up to me telling me I was doing it completely wrong. I was making a show of myself on the stage.
But it's the taking part that counts. Look, for me, people in glass houses, I am 2 left feet, absolutely, that's for sure. Breffney, tell us about some of your highlights over the 3 days.
Yeah, well, of course, Aisling, it's the same as every year. It's the characters you meet at the ploughing as well that forms a huge part of the ploughing. And of course, the event would be nothing without the people that come together, both the exhibitors and people that come to view the event. But of course, myself and Andy, one of the camera guys here with Agriland, we were out and about capturing some opinions on the ploughing. And this young man from Mitchelstown in Cork rocked up to us. His name is Owen Lynch, and he gave us a great explanation of his love for the slurry machinery that's on display at the ploughing this year. And I think he said that he dreams about spreading slurry.
And more than 1 or 2 people have seen that video, I believe.
Yeah, so we subsequently posted the video on social media, and it went out on all our channels. But actually, we just seen there today now that the video has actually crossed over 1.2 million views on TikTok. So it really just goes to show how these things can become viral really quick. He joined us again today now, and he said that he's got several offers from a number of different slurry companies looking to do slurry machinery companies looking to do various different bits and pieces with himself. So I suppose that was definitely one of the funny, more unusual happenings of the ploughing for me this year.
Absolutely. Apart from line dancing, Hugh, what stood out to you?
Well, Aisling actually was very good at the line dancing, but probably just didn't get enough going at it. But no, look, I was going around to different stands, talking to different. I went to Chagga's stand, and in fairness, Chagga's had a lovely kind of interactive kind of stands there. Like there was one there just on clover, and lads could actually get the nodules of clover and look at it and see how deep the roots go. And I think just for an educational point of view, it was really good to see. And then I was actually down and I was doing a video with one of them, and there was all about the farm layout. And I think it was really important, and I know farmers listening to this might say, farm layout, farm expansion, how are we going to invest it when we don't know what's ahead of us? But look, it was really good to see, because look, he had it all kind of like 3 movements. So you had your animal movements, you had your with the milk lorry movements, and then your tractor movements, all in different sections but together. So everything then was kind of lining up for your water quality. It was just everything for cow flow, slurry capacity, it was all designed that way. So,
and I think when you come to the ploughing, it's not necessarily that you're going to replicate that in your yard,
no.
but you could pick and choose and maybe adapt bits. And I think you get ideas from these stands, and I think that's the idea of them.
Exactly, 100%, Aisling. And look, farmers getting out and just seeing that. And look, I think, like as I said at the start, the mood is better, and I think like there is a bit more positivity around kind of like the nitrates derogation, and whether that'll hold or not now is a different thing. But like farmers have to be optimistic. Like I was down at another stand there with David Clark and cows.ie, and we were talking, you know, well, like what's the heifer trade like, and like, you know, is it going to affect farmers like down the line? Like, is the trade slow? Well, like he was kind of more or less saying that like farmers still want to invest, farmers still want to have their cows, and like the trade is still there, and like all we can do is be optimistic and stay going the way we're going, and like whether we farm at the same level down the line is a different thing, but yeah.
And Louise, we mentioned politicians as well, and look, there is a general election in the offing at some point, and of course we have the budget coming up first on October 1st, and Minister for Finance Jack Chambers will be telling us all about that in a couple of weeks. Of course, the farm organisations have had their pre-budget submissions well flagged in advance and took full advantage of meeting up with all of the politicians who were present on site over the 3 days. Taoiseach Simon Harris came into the Agriland stand. He had a lot to say, and he really did back farmers in words.
Yeah, so that's the good thing about the ploughing is I suppose there's politicians going around. Obviously, there's a general election coming up and they want to be heard, but it also gives people a chance to get in contact with them, and it's not every day you run into ministers and are able to get your voice heard. So yes, we did have the Taoiseach in the Agriland tent this morning, and I suppose the key message that he was getting across is that he does have farmers' backs, and I think it was quite positive, his message that he was spreading. But I suppose one of the key points he touched on as well was that the €14 billion fund from Apple that we're due to receive due to the revenue case should maybe go towards the nitrates derogation. So
he was saying water, the electricity grid, and you know he had pointed out 3 areas, and I think the fact that he had highlighted water was very important from a farm point of view, and investing in water quality. Like we do have the EIP, of course, the €60 million farming for water EIP, which is going to attract, they think, about 15,000 farmers, which is a real positive. But like I'm sure you're aware as well, Breffney, like farmers are well aware of the challenges that are there, and we do see from ASAP and LawPro, those organisations that are involved in catchment programmes, that farmers know and they're willing to engage, but sometimes it falls down on the lack of capital that's there. So getting any extra funding from Apple or wherever it comes from, we'll take it.
Yeah, of course, Aisling. And I suppose while I think all the main political parties had leaders or representatives here at the ploughing over the course of the 3 days, it was interesting to hear the Taoiseach say in the Agriland tent today. He gave some what I would have perceived as positive soundings on the retention of the nitrates derogation. And Hugh, I think maybe that's what you were picking up on as well. But I suppose also it was interesting to hear him note that he was at agricultural shows the length and breadth of the country, which he did attend this year, and he said that he was listening to farmers. So I suppose that's reassuring for farmers to hear that, you know. And
not just talking to farmers, listening to them, and he really stressed that.
But just to pick up then, of course, that he'd been listening to farmers, and often, maybe too often, farmers feel that they're being talked down to from government. And I think the results of our Agriland survey, Aisling, showed that as well. Yeah,
so that's our Agriland survey that we carried out in conjunction with the ICMSA, and it was conducted by Opinions Research, and we did see very, very interesting findings in terms of the political parties. We saw it was a very positive result for Fine Gael, not so much for Fianna Fáil, but it did give us very interesting results. More than 1,500 farmers who would class themselves as decision makers on their farms, and 6 in 10 out of those did point to income pressures, Breffney, and that does reflect what we see in the Teagasc National Farm Survey as well. It's not surprising in some ways.
Yeah, the income pressures, of course, but there was another high percentage of farmers that felt that they weren't actively involved in maybe policy as well, and they weren't being informed enough about it in advance. So maybe that's something that government could certainly take on board and maybe bring farmers along with them. And I suppose the lobby groups have a role to play there as well.
Yeah, and look, I mean, it's always this time of year we start to see the rollout of scheme payments as well, Hugh. That's very important for all farmers. But the ANC, the areas of natural constraint, we saw advance payments being made there as well, and we'll get balancing payments in December, but 85% of that payment landing into farmers' accounts. A lot of farmers will be looking forward to that landing into the bank account.
Oh, 100%, Aisling, yeah. Like, as Breffney was touching on, like, costs, like, well, number one, incomes, but a lot of that was down to costs. Like, costs this year were through the roof, like, as they have been since kind of like 2022. And I kind of think, like, in the last while, I think, like, the trends in production are kind of going the wrong way. Like, if you take into account, like, a lot of lads are starting to feed more meal, like, where they should be trying to focus on grass and bring down their costs. So, like, there's a lot of things to be looked at to, you know, kind of rectify that in your own farm situation and kind of, you know, focus on utilising your grass and keeping your costs down. Because I think it was dairy production was, from a Chaga survey, it was up 56% the cost of production last year. So, like, or sorry, that was a 10-year period. That was 56%. So, yeah, like it is concerning, and I don't know where to kind of, and like I suppose then you have your derogation, as I said, and then your sustainability measurements that you're trying to that farmers have to pay for as well. Like, that's all going in on your cents a litre. So
yeah. And another news story that broke here at the ploughing this week as well, of course, Louise, was the vet schools. We've been waiting for announcements on the vet schools, and the University of Limerick announcing before the ploughing that they were withdrawing from the competition came as a surprise, I'd say, to a lot of people. They were highlighting the capital costs involved. But can you tell us where we are getting vet schools and what we learned this week?
Yes, so we had seen for quite some time, obviously, ATU, SETU and UL were all in competition for the vet school, and we were looking for maybe one vet school or maybe increase in places at UCD, and then with UL pulling out of the race due to finances, we just seen the others contest together this week.
So 40 places in each, so in ATU yes. and in SETU, yeah.
So in ATU, this will be spread out across Donegal and Galway, and then there will be spaces in SETU then as well. It's also confirmed that there will be no increases in UCD for places
as of yet. Is that a surprise?
I think so now. That's just confirmed as of yet. Possibly when they do get up and running, that might change.
And any idea of timelines when we can see these extra places, or will we have to obviously get these courses up and running and staff involved and everything? So that's going to take some time.
There's been no time frame allocated yet as to when it might happen. Hopefully we might see the rollout for the other schools next year, but there's been no update as of yet for the other two.
Yeah, and look, I know a lot of farmers are in conversion. We also saw the launch of a new organic strategy as well, and the Acres non-productive investments as well. A new platform is opened for them too, and obviously those involved in 2023 might be screaming a bit, saying, well, we haven't gotten anything, but as we reported on Agriland, the payment portal and work is underway on getting that developed for 2025. And look, I suppose Acres is a big talking point out there in schemes and the delays in farm payments. Breffney, that frustration is there. The sun is shining, but there is a level of frustration as well about how that has been handled. And even the Minister for Agriculture, Charlie McConalogue, when he was here on the stage with me, you know, he did say that mistakes had been made, but he did feel confident that they're trying to move past that now. They're getting scorecards out. And look, there is a lot of good work being done out there as well in terms of the environmental benefit of Acres. You know, it does get an awful lot of bad press, and deservedly so in a lot of cases, but there is work going on out there. But all of those payments, it's been frustrating.
Yeah, of course, Aisling, and naturally enough, Acres is an environmental scheme, and it's targeted on and focused on rewarding farmers for taking environmental actions or actions which will help to improve the environment on their farms. So we've seen in the level of farmers that applied for the scheme, Aisling, that the level of interest is significant from farmers in this. But I suppose it's unfortunate to see these issues with continued delays in Acres payments, and often in cases there where also farmers are having to return monies as well. So yeah, I suppose if farmers are, and farmers have already showed that they are willing to get involved in these schemes and incentives, I I suppose what the government and departments are going to have to figure out some way to fast track a lot of the bureaucracy and red tape associated with these respective schemes.
Yeah, look, there was a lot of other talking points here in the stage as well. We talked to MOCRA as well about mental health. They were telling us that their mental health service, Make the Move, which was established back in 2018, is inundated at the moment, Hugh. I mean, like we were talking about generational renewal, succession is obviously a huge, big talking point at the moment with the new Commission for Generational Renewal being set up. But when you see the pressures that farmers, young farmers are under as well, and trying to make it attractive, that's important as well, like that we have to make this a viable, vibrant industry and to make sure that young people want to come in and stay in this sector.
Yeah, look, 100%, Aisling, like, it has to, I think, like, especially like dairy and beef, it's kind of like in a position now where people are like, they don't know where they are going forward. They're kind of like a lot of questions haven't been answered, and I think, like, in terms of, like, you know, going back to the derogation, going back to your sustainability and environmental, there needs to be a plan in place. There needs to be something there where we're going to have a good breeding protocol. And like, lads don't know, like, farmers don't know where to be taking their breeding program, like what kind of cow to be producing. So all of that kind of has to be addressed. Like, there has to be something there for young farmers to want to stay in the industry, because, like, they're the future. And, like, look, I've been around, and there is real success stories out there of, like, farmers in partnership.
Yeah.
And, like, I know,
and we met Christopher Cahill, the FBD Young Farmer of the Year for this year. A really, really impressive young farmer who didn't have land of his own and linked up with the Land Mobility Service to get that land. So
like,
people are making
it does show
effort.
that it does work. And like that, like, people often say, like, oh, well, if there's no income for one farmer, like, how is there going to be income for two farmers in a partnership? But, like, lads have showed us that it does work if you do everything right, if you have a good plan in place and are efficiently doing it, like.
And look, I suppose before we finish up, we're all in the move next year, guys. We didn't get anything out of Anna Marie McHugh when she was on the stage. She said they're still discussing it, and she said it's up in the air still. There are 3 different locations for the National Ploughing Championships in 2025. Somewhere in Leinster, so for the Kingdom, we lose out yet again. I'm devastated, but it'll come back to Kerry, no doubt, one year when we get a huge motorway system down there. But look, I'm sure I'll go to all of 3 of you before we finish up. Louise, looking forward to 2025.
Well, absolutely. Of course, I'll need a long rest now after this. I think 3 days might be enough, to be honest. I'd say we're all a bit tired. But yeah, definitely looking forward to 2025. It'll be interesting to see where it is. I think this is an ideal site, and they seem to have it nailed down now. And I don't know about yourselves, what you think of that.
Breffney, have you made the case for Cavan?
Yeah, I don't know now. Well, maybe this week now with the good weather we're having, but I think on a normal autumn now, I don't know would the Cavan land be able to sustain a ploughing championships. But so it's I suppose there's a lot of speculation, and there always will be speculation from farmers and people at the event on where it's going to be next year. I've heard all sorts of places mentioned. But as well, I suppose an interesting thing about this ploughing, Aisling, and just to pick up on a point you made earlier, is that it's the last ploughing before the general election, be it this year or next year, be it November or February. By the time the next ploughing takes place, we will have had a general election and a new government. So there was really a lot of electioneering in place by all the main political parties who were here at the ploughing.
Absolutely. Hugh, have you put in a shbake to get the ploughing home?
Yeah, down to Punchestown there, where all the thoroughbred horses are. Look well down there now. But no, look, as Louise said, I think last few years it has been a real success. Yeah. And like I know, like Breffney, you were saying last year we were all walking around in the muck, but like it still drew a crowd and people were still coming. So like, look, wherever it is next year, I think it's still gonna be a success. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my thanks to all of the Agriland team here in the National Ploughing Championships in the Agriland tent. Cormac Farley, of course, owner of Agriland, made all of this possible. We were the national live stream partner with the National Ploughing Association for the 3 days, and we're delighted to do so. And we thank them for all of their help as well. Thanks to everybody involved in the technical side of the house as well. We really appreciate their hard work over the last few days, and particularly on the podcast as well. And thank you for getting involved, for watching all of our content, for listening to the podcast. We'll be back next week with another regular Farming Week episode. Thank you for joining us. Hugh Harney, Agriland Technical Dairy Specialist, Breffney O'Brien, Agriland Technical Beef Specialist, and Louise Hickey, journalist. Take a well-earned break, guys. Thank you so much for all your hard work over the last 3 days. And that's where we'll leave it. And make sure to check out the Agriland app and for all of the latest from the ploughing, and the website as well. We'll have all of the latest results. And don't forget to rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. From me, Aisling O'Brien, from Ratheniska in County Laois. We don't know will we be back here next year or where we will be, but hopefully we'll be back again for the National Ploughing Championships in 2025. Thank you for joining us.